Task number 3, ARP bringing layer 3 addressing to layer 2 addressing. We have stated in the network concepts room that as two hosts communicate over a network, an IP packet is encapsulated within a data link frame as it travels over layer 2. Remember that the two common data link layers we used are Ethernet and Wi-Fi. Here we see from the Institute of Electrical Engineers, actually, I don't know why I'm trying to remember that, because from just a simple search, we can find out the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. That's the meaning of this one, that establishes the protocols, the Ethernet number under 802.3 and Wi-Fi under 802.11. Whenever one host needs to communicate with another host on the same Ethernet or Wi-Fi, it must send the IP packet within a data link layer frame. Although it knows the IP address of the target host, it needs to look up the target's MAC address so the proper data link header can be created. As you would remember, a MAC address is a 48-bit number typically represented in hexadecimal notation. For example, here we have it, and then this one are two MAC addresses on my network. You've seen MAC addresses and we talked about them in the previous networking room. However, the devices on the same Ethernet network do not need to know each other's MAC address all the time. They only need to know each other's MAC addresses while communicating. Everything revolves around IP addresses. Consider this scenario. You connect your device to a network, and if the network has a DHCP server, your device is automatically configured to use a specific gateway from the router and DNS server. Consequently, your device knows the IP address of the DNS server to resolve any domain name. Moreover, it knows the IP address of the router when it needs to send packets over the internet. All this scenario, no MAC addresses are relevant. However, two devices on the same Ethernet cannot communicate without knowing each other's MAC addresses. As a reminder, in the screenshot below, we see an IP packet within an Ethernet frame. The Ethernet frame header contains a destination MAC address, a source MAC address, and type 4 IP. So, a source MAC address, a destination MAC address. Here we see them again, and then the IPv4 type is IPv4, right? Again, this packet is captured with Wireshark. Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP, makes it possible to find the MAC address of another devices on the internet. In the example below, a host with the IP address the following wants to communicate with another system with the IP address of the following. It sends an ARP request asking the host with the IP address, this one, to respond. The ARP request is sent from the MAC address of the requester to the broadcast MAC address. The ARP reply arrives shortly afterwards, and the host with the IP address, this one, responds with its MAC address. From this point, the two hosts can exchange data link layer frames. And here is basically displayed the above mentioned. If we use TCP dump, the packets will be displayed differently. It uses the terms ARP request and ARP reply. For your information, the output is shown in the terminal below. So basically the above, but with TCP dump. The ARP request or ARP reply is not encapsulated with a UDP or even IP packet. It is encapsulated directly within an Ethernet frame. The following ARP reply shows this. So we see the reply from the ARP reply, and then here we have the relevant information, sender MAC and sender IP addresses with target MAC and target IP addresses for IPv4, right? Over Ethernet. ARP is considered layer 2 because it deals with MAC addresses. Others would argue that it is part of layer 3 because it supports IP operations. What is essential to know is that ARP follows the translation from layer 3 addressing to layer 2 addressing. Answer the questions below. What is the destination MAC address used in an ARP request? F. In the example of what is the MAC address of the following IP? There you have it. So is the sender, which is the one with 444, but I guess we see it over here. Yes. This is it from the sender. Yes, the reply with the MAC address. Okay, perfect.